In the quiet town of Willow Creek, nestled deep in the forests of Oregon, lived Emily Hayes. Emily had always been a girl with big dreams, but she was content with the simple life that Willow Creek offered. The town was small, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and secrets were impossible to keep. Yet one secret had haunted Emily for years, buried deep in the shadows of her past. It was a love that had never truly died, but had been lost in the creeping horror that changed her life forever. Emily had grown up with Daniel Smith, her childhood love. They had been inseparable, running through the woods, playing in the creeks, and sharing whispered secrets under the old oak tree behind her house. Daniel had always been her protector, her confidant, and the boy who could make her heart race with just a smile. They had made a pact when they were 16, under the soft light of a full moon. "We'll always be together, no matter what," Daniel had promised, his dark brown eyes locking with hers. She had believed him, with all her heart, but life had other plans. One cold autumn night, when they were 17, everything changed. Emily and Daniel had gone into the woods for a late-night walk. It had been their special place, away from the prying eyes of the town. The air was crisp, the scent of pine heavy around them as they held hands, laughing and talking about the future. But something had felt off that night. The woods were too quiet, the usual sounds of animals and rustling leaves absent. Emily had felt it first, a shiver running down her spine, but Daniel had assured her it was nothing. Then they heard it, a soft, eerie whisper, like the wind calling their names. Emily had turned, but no one was there. The moonlight flickered through the trees, casting long, twisted shadows. Daniel had tightened his grip on her hand, his face paling as the whisper grew louder. They began to run, but no matter how fast they moved, the whisper followed, creeping closer until it felt like it was right beside them. In a moment of panic, Emily had tripped, falling hard onto the ground. Daniel had stopped, turning to help her, but before he could reach her, the shadows had come alive. Emily had screamed, her voice echoing through the silent woods as she watched in horror. Dark, inky tendrils wrapped around Daniel, pulling him away from her. His eyes had widened in terror as he struggled, calling her name, but the shadows consumed him, swallowing him whole. And just like that, Daniel was gone. The town had searched for him for weeks, but there was no trace. Emily had been found unconscious in the woods, alone with no memory of what had happened. The whispers of the town grew louder, and soon people began to say that Daniel had simply run away. But Emily knew the truth. She had seen the horror, the thing that had taken him, but no one had believed her, not even her own parents. Years passed, and Emily tried to move on. She left Willow Creek for college, moved to the bustling city of Portland, and did everything she could to forget the past. But the memory of that night haunted her. The whispers never truly left, always lurking in the back of her mind, reminding her of the love she had lost and the horror she had witnessed. One evening, years later, Emily received a strange letter. It was unsigned with no return address, but the handwriting was unmistakable. It was Daniel's. "Meet me at the oak tree under the full moon." Her heart raced as she read the words. It couldn't be. Daniel was gone, lost to whatever dark force had taken him. But the letter was real, and so was the pull in her heart. She had never stopped loving him, never stopped hoping that somehow, some way, he might return. With trembling hands, she packed a bag and drove back to Willow Creek. The town hadn't changed. It was still quiet, still wrapped in the eerie calm that had always unsettled her. As she walked through the woods, the memories flooded back, each step taking her closer to the place where she had lost him. The oak tree stood tall, its branches swaying gently in the wind. The moon was full, casting a silver light across the clearing. Emily waited, her breath coming in short gasps. Then she heard it, the soft, familiar whisper. Her heart pounded in her chest as she turned, expecting to see the same dark shadows that had haunted her for years. But instead, she saw him. Daniel stood at the edge of the clearing, his figure illuminated by the moonlight. He looked just as he had the night he disappeared, but there was something different, something darker about him. His eyes, once warm and full of life, now seemed hollow, haunted by whatever had taken him. "Emily," he whispered, his voice barely audible over the rustling leaves. She took a step toward him, tears streaming down her face. "Daniel, is it really you?" He nodded, but there was a sadness in his expression. "I never left. Not really. I've been trapped, in the shadows, watching, waiting for the chance to come back to you." Emily's heart ached as she reached out to him, but the air around them grew cold. The shadows began to stir again, swirling around them like a dark storm. Daniel's face twisted in pain as he stepped back, the shadows tugging at him once more. "You have to let me go," he whispered. "I'm not the boy you remember. The darkness, it's a part of me now." Emily shook her head, sobbing. "No, I won't lose you again." But Daniel's figure began to fade, the shadows pulling him back into the darkness from which he had emerged. His final words echoed in the night as he disappeared once more. "Goodbye, Emily." Emily fell to her knees beneath the oak tree, her heart shattered. The love she had held on to for so long had been real, but it was now lost forever in the shadows. As the moon disappeared behind the clouds, the whisper faded, leaving her alone in the cold, haunted woods of Willow Creek. And from that night on, Emily would always remember the love she lost and the horror that came with it. Story number 2. In the bustling heart of New York City, where the skyline kissed the clouds, Patricia Smith, a vibrant art student with dreams as vast as the ocean, lived her life surrounded by the clamor of the metropolis. Patricia was known for her creativity, which painted the city in shades of hope and love. But beneath her artistic spirit lay a chilling tale of love, intertwined with horror, a story that would forever change her perception of reality. One brisk autumn evening, Patricia strolled through Central Park, her sketchbook in hand, capturing the golden hues of the trees. She often found inspiration in the park's serenity, a stark contrast to the city's chaos. As she sat on a bench, lost in her sketches, a figure caught her eye. He was tall with dark hair and an enigmatic aura. His name was Ethan. He approached her with a warm smile, his presence both comforting and strangely magnetic. They exchanged pleasantries, and what began as a casual conversation soon blossomed into an undeniable connection. Patricia found herself drawn to Ethan's mysterious charm, captivated by his stories of the city's hidden treasures and its darker, forgotten past. Days turned into weeks, and their romance flourished against the backdrop of the city's vibrant nightlife. However, Patricia began to notice strange occurrences. Shadows flitted in the corners of her vision, whispers echoed in the silence of the night, and she often felt as if someone was watching her. As Patricia and Ethan's relationship deepened, Patricia confided in him about the eerie feelings she had been experiencing. Ethan listened intently, his expression serious. "New York has its secrets," he said. "Some places are haunted by the past, and some people are not what they seem." Intrigued yet unsettled, Patricia dismissed the notion. She wanted to believe that her love story was like those she illustrated in her sketches, full of light and hope. But Ethan's enigmatic behavior began to unravel her sense of security. He often spoke of the other side, a place where shadows dance and spirits lingered. One fateful night, while exploring a dilapidated building rumored to be haunted, Patricia stumbled upon a hidden room filled with old photographs. The images depicted lovers from a century ago, their faces eerily resembling hers and Ethan's. As she examined them, a chill ran down her spine. "Ethan!" she called out, but the room echoed her voice in silence. Panic surged within her as she realized he was gone. Desperate, she rushed outside, her heart racing. It was then that she saw him standing under a flickering street lamp, his back turned to her, the shadows casting a long silhouette. "Ethan!" she shouted, but he didn't turn. A sense of dread washed over her. As she approached, she noticed the air around him grew colder, and the darkness seemed to envelop him. Just then, he turned, his eyes glowing with an unsettling light. "Patricia," he whispered, his voice echoing in the chilling night. "You shouldn't have seen that." Confusion and fear flooded her mind. "What do you mean? Where were you?" "Sometimes love can bind us to places and people we never wanted to encounter," he replied cryptically. "I'm not just a part of your life. I'm tied to the city and its ghosts." Patricia's heart raced as she began to understand. Ethan was a spirit, bound to the memories of those lost in the city's depths. Their love was both a sanctuary and a prison, a connection forged across time. Torn between love and the haunting reality of Ethan's existence, Patricia faced a heart-wrenching decision. As days passed, the shadows in her life grew darker, feeding off her fear and uncertainty. She realized that to free Ethan, she must confront the very essence of their love and the curse that bound him. One night, Patricia returned to the building where she found the photographs, determined to uncover the truth. She searched for clues, piecing together the history of the lovers captured in time, who had once lived and died in the very city she adored. As she delved deeper, she discovered a ritual that could break the curse, a way to sever Ethan's ties to the shadows and allow him to find peace. But it came with a heavy cost. She would have to sacrifice their love, forever severing the bond that tied them together. Patricia stood at the crossroads of love and loss, her heart aching with the weight of her choice. She prepared for the ritual under the same flickering street lamp where they first met. As she began to chant the ancient words, the shadows around her writhed, and Ethan appeared, his eyes filled with sorrow and understanding. "Patricia, no," he pleaded, stepping closer. "We can find a way, together." "Ethan," she whispered, tears streaming down her cheeks. "This is the only way. You deserve to be free." In that moment, the love they shared transcended the boundaries of life and death. As the ritual reached its peak, the shadows howled, swirling around them in a tempest of despair. But amidst the chaos, Ethan smiled, a serene expression that calmed the storm. "I will always love you, Patricia," he said, his voice a soft caress. "Even in the shadows, my love for you will remain." With those final words, Patricia completed the ritual. A blinding light engulfed them, and in an instant, the shadows receded. Ethan's figure dissolved into the air, leaving behind a sense of peace that enveloped her. As the sun rose over New York City, Patricia felt a weight lift from her heart. Though she had lost Ethan, she knew he was finally free, liberated from the chains of the past. In the weeks that followed, she channeled her grief into her art, creating pieces that reflected the love they had shared and the bittersweet beauty of letting go. Patricia would often walk through Central Park, the memories of their time together a gentle whisper in the wind, reminding her that love, even when touched by horror, is a powerful force that transcends time and space. And as she sketched the skyline, she smiled, knowing that Ethan would always be a part of her forever, etched in her heart, a love story that would never truly fade. Our love horror stories are over. Please like this video and subscribe to my YouTube channel for more stories. Thanks for watching.